turn the page. We'll see the Ramban himself. He just quoted the Bahag. Now he is going to tell us what he believes is the answer to this question.
I am the Lord your God. This statement is a positive commandment. He said, I am the Lord in order to instruct and command the Jewish people that they should know and believe in there is a God. That is to say, he exists and always existed, and everything came into being with his desire and will. He is their God whom they are obligated to serve. God said to the Jews, I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods. In other words, God said, it is I whose kingship you accepted on yourselves in Egypt. They, the Jews, replied, yes, it is true. God then said, if you accept my kingship, you should accept my laws. That is, after you have accepted and agreed that I am the Lord and I am your God, as you saw from Egypt, now accept my mitzvahs.
Good. Okay, so the Ramban is kind of combining the first two opinions, right? What's his opinion? Good. And why is it like the Bahag? Meaning he agrees with the Rambam.
You have to accept it first before you continue the commandments.
Good. Meaning according to the Ramban, right, he agrees with the Rambam and the Sefer Chinuch that this is one of the 613. But he agrees with the Bahag that it's not just one of the 613. He agrees that this one mitzvah comes before the other 612. The first thing we have to do, according to the Ramban, is develop this mitzvah of Amunah, right? Accept Hashem. Then there's 612 other mitzvahs waiting for me, right? Okay, now the reason I brought this, right, and I think this is important to talk about, is that you see there are different approaches in the Rishonim about whether or not it's a mitzvah to have Amunah. Everybody except for the Bahag seems to hold it's one of the 613, and it sounds like that's what the Gemara says, right? But what does everybody agree? Everybody agrees that it is an extremely central part of Judaism to have Amunah, right? Like it's not just, something that, like at the beginning you talk about if there's a God, if there isn't a God, and you hear all the proofs and you hear all the cases for, and you decide, okay, I'm on board, and now we can talk about how long your sleeves should be, right? Like, Emunah is a fundamental part of keeping Torah, right? Even according to the Bahag, it's the one that I got to do. If I don't do it, I can't do any of the 613 mitzvahs, right? And according to everybody else, it's one of the 613 mitzvahs just like everything else is, right? So that means that if a person would keep all the other mitzvot, right? And at the end of their life, they would say, listen, I never really quite worked out whether there was a God, whether there wasn't a God. I never really accepted that premise. But look, I did like this. I lived a religious life, and I kept all the mitzvot. I didn't do any of the averas, right? So according to everybody but the Bahag, what would Hashem say? Good, right? You missed one. 612 and 6 out of 613, right? What would the Bahag say? Right, the Bahag might say you kept all 613 mitzvahs, but there was no root. You were missing the foundation. And the Ramban might agree with that, right? That you missed the whole foundation, right? I'll tell you a very interesting thing. The Rambam, anybody ever hear of or study the 13 principles of faith of the Rambam? We mentioned them last time, the Anima means, right? Yeah? The Rambam says there are 13 principles of faith, that our emunah consists of 13 different aspects, right? One is that Hashem has always existed, another one is that there's no other gods or no other powers, another one is that Hashem is going to bring Mashiach, another one is that Hashem is Hashkacha, he's involved in our lives, right? 13 things. And the Rambam is all based on a Mishnah, right? And the Rambam says anybody who doesn't believe in these 13 things, right, has no chelek in Olam Haba. There's no place in Olam Haba. So how could that be? How could it be that somebody who believes in 12 out of the 13 principles of faith and does all the other mitzvos, right? According to the Rambam, that person has no place in the world to come. Right? How could that be? So, according to this, we might say, listen, the whole point of this was that you were supposed to accept Hashem as the Melech. Once you accept him as the Melech, he's got a whole bunch of things that he tells you to do. But if you didn't fully accept him as the Melech, I didn't fully accept there's a God, and I want to live my life investing in my relationship with Hashem, right? So then all this other stuff was just busy work. Like, what were you doing, right? But if you decided, I want to have a relationship with Hashem, right? And then you did all these things in that context, then they're mitzvos, right? But until you've really worked out that I believe in Hashem, and I want to spend my life developing a relationship with Hashem, so then what are you doing the rest of this stuff for, right? It would be like if, imagine you married a guy and he learns all of your habits, he learns all the things that are important to you, he knows the way you like your socks folded, he knows the way you like the bed made, he knows the way you like him to stack the dishes in the sink, right? He knows everything about what you like, right? And he does it all, right? But he allows, God forbid, the relationship to completely deteriorate. But he keeps doing all the stuff that you wanted him to do. And then he says, look, aren't I a great husband? All the things you've ever asked me, I do them, right? You say, yeah, but you're missing the point, right? It's true. If we have the relationship, all those things are very important details. But if you're just doing all that stuff and you never put any effort into the relationship, right? What do we have at the end of the day, right? So that's this. That emunah, without emunah, the rest of this stuff can't get started, right? I'm not saying until you've got emunah worked out, you can't keep any of the mitzvahs. If you don't have emunah worked out, you're with the rest of us, and we've got to keep working on this our whole lives. But the point is to not be working on your emunah and only be working on the rest of the mitzvahs, right? Is missing the ground floor, right? So along with our work on all the other mitzvahs and all the other things we're doing, and all working on your midos, and working on your keeping Shabbos, working on your keeping kosher, and all of that, there must be along with that this process of working on your emunah, right? At least as important as those, and maybe even numero uno, maybe even number one on the list, right? Because until I've gotten this, if I don't have this worked out, right, so then all that's going to affect everything else, right? Okay, so we are going to actually, next week, start doing things that are actually going to work on our midah of emunah, right? So now that we understand how important this is, okay? So I want you to think about, as we said last time, start thinking about what are my questions, right? What bothers me? What am I good with? What doesn't bother me? What does bother me, right? For example, if you say, listen, science says the world is billions of years old, and Judaism says the world is 5,700 something years old, I'm confident there's an answer. That doesn't bother me. So then you don't have to spend time on that. But if you say, I just can't move on, it seems to be science is right and Judaism is wrong, right? So then that needs to be worked out, right? So what are the things that bother me? What are the questions, I had a student who, and I asked this once, they said, if I was born Christian or I was born Muslim, I'm an obedient person, I became religious, I would have become a religious Christian or a religious Muslim too, right? The only reason I'm a religious Jew is because I was born Jewish. And therefore when I decided to become more religious, I became Jewish, right? I became more interested in the Torah, right? But if I was Muslim and I decided to become more religious, I'd be more interested in the Quran. So why should I believe in any of this? It's a good question, right? Has to be worked out. Okay, so that's for next time what I want you to do. I need to think about those questions. You can even bring a list, and if you want, I'll give you a chance to share some of them if you want to. At the beginning, you won't be forced to. Okay? Okay, have a great week.